Hey, good morning, class. Welcome in. We're going to have our third discussion on Chapter 2. We took a look at various economic systems. We took a look at the ins and outs of the American economy. And now we're going to kind of take a look at the goals of the nation. And essentially, when we take a look at this, we want to break it down in the fact that a lot of these goals are kind of on paper. Like, hey, we set out for a calendar year. These are things that we want to attain. These are things that we want to achieve. However, the harsh reality is that although they may be on paper, they're not necessarily happening in real life. So I want to make sure that we are aware of these goals, but at the same time, have you question as to whether or not we're actually attaining them or reaching them. Okay? So with that being said, let's take a look at the goals of the nation. So as we take a look at this section, we're going to look at six distinguishable goals that the United States sets every year. Okay? As a free enterprise system, the United States has several national goals, and these goals include number one, freedom, two, efficiency, three, equity, four, security, five, stability, and lastly, six, growth. Now, let's take a look at each of these, break them down, and kind of look at both sides of the coin. So when we take a look at freedom, okay, the idea is that the goal of economic freedom is that for all of us, each member that is contributing to society, to have the ability to make choices, make decisions, purchasing goods, investing, saving money, doing all these things that we have the options to do. Americans have one of the highest degrees of freedom in the world, all right, to start their own business, to own private property, to make those investments, and to pursue other economic choices. Okay, we have that ability, that flexibility. However, there are a lot of consequences that can occur. And, as we look at it, a lot of U.S. citizens who are working paycheck to paycheck, trying to make it, trying to make ends meet every 2 weeks, they're working, multiple jobs. They could work night shifts. They could work part-time. They could be working early mornings. All right, they could be moving from place to place, trying to find the right way to work. And especially during this pandemic, a lot of folks had, essentially either were laid off or had to take unemployment. So when you look at it, yes, there is a ton of ability for freedom. However, there is a lot of stress. There is a lot of complications that can occur. That can occur if you're not able to lock down a steady, consistent job. And a lot of folks, when they're in high school, when they get into college, it's tough. Those are those ramen noodle days, right? Where you're able to get a paycheck, but you can only spend a limited amount. It's almost like being the farmer during the Oregon Trail. You have that paycheck, but you really have to figure out what to do with it, and that in itself, again, kind of is problematic. Okay, so it's not necessarily a guarantee. Yes, the freedoms are there, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that we're happy, and that's the big trade-off. Okay. All right, so economic efficiency. Now, this is the wide use of available resources to obtain the greatest benefits possible. All right, because of scarcity here in the U.S., the factors of production are wasted. All right, fewer goods and services overall will be produced. All right, so it's important to be watchful, to use the lowest cost way to produce any given amount of output. Okay, being efficient with what you have. All right, and one could say, looking at the other side of things, instead of maybe being efficient, we could be potentially inefficient, where again we have a lot of factors of production and resources that we tap out. We're using so much of, okay, and that in itself, instead of being more frugal, instead of trying to be a little bit more manageable with what we have, we're constantly wasting and things are constantly running out. So that in itself could be problematic. Okay, I think what's interesting, a lot of folks are now starting to shift toward a concept called minimalism, where we're not going out, we're not being the big consumers that we always are. We're starting to buy what we need, but that's really it, and minimizing our expenditures, and that's kind of a common trend here in 2021. So again, economic efficiency is important, all right, but you want to make sure that at the federal, state, and local level that those resources are being used the right way. Okay, economic equity and security. So Americans want their economic system to be fair and to be just. Okay, again, these are all on paper. All right, Americans encourage lawmakers to put in place laws that show equal pay for equal work, fairness in hiring practices, and help for disabled workers. All right. Now, again, we are not seeing that. Okay. Equal pay for equal work. Unfortunately, we still see a large, significant pay gap between what men make and what women make. And whether it be in the business sector, whether it be in farming, whether it be in athletics and sports, all right, there is still a significant pay gap. And again, essentially the same job. However, women are not getting paid fairly, and that is a problem. That is an issue. All right, that has still not been solved. We take a look at fairness in hiring practices. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of bias. We see a lot of nepotism. So again, a lot of family ties or friend ties when we see hiring practices. So what does this mean? It means minority groups, people of different races, different backgrounds. They may run into roadblocks when they are applying for a job or applying for a career. And the fact of the matter is, and unfortunately, in this country, we are still, of the mindset where, again, minority folks and individuals are not able to get the jobs that they deserve. And this is a problem. This is a huge problem, okay? Also, again, help for disabled workers, people that have disabilities, people that have mental illness. These kind of things are kind of pushed aside and are not necessarily acknowledged enough. Okay, now there are organizations, there are some great, wonderful workplaces that are all about inclusion, and that's a huge step. But in most of corporate America, we still are stuck in the past, and a lot of issues are stemming from that. You can see it in the news, you can see it on the daily. Okay, so like I said, again, we talk about the goals. Are we achieving them? That's what I want you to think about critically. Okay. Now, with economic security, Americans want protection against risks beyond our control, okay? These include accidents on the job and the workplace, natural disasters, business and bank failures, and poverty and old age. Now, let's take a look at this because, again, pandemic, way beyond our control, something we never would have predicted, and quite frankly, we were not prepared. Okay, we were not prepared to handle it as a society, both in the medical terms and certainly not on the economic terms, where a lot of people in this past year have essentially fallen under very, very difficult, stressful times. Small businesses are closing. You have people that have lost their jobs. You have families that are in need of food. All of these kind of things have occurred, and on paper, we want to have that security blanket. We want to be insured. But things beyond our control, we've not necessarily adapted to very well. Now, you look at workplace accidents, you want to make sure that you're covered for that. We talk about natural disasters. We usually think like a tornado or hurricane, but now a pandemic has kind of been a situation where things have been incredibly difficult. We take a look at what happened in Texas over the last couple of weeks with their deep freeze. Okay, not being prepared, not getting support from our economic system. We took a look at business and bank failures. 2008, when the banks collapsed, people lost everything, and trust was broken. A lot of people, trusted the banks, and all of a sudden that trust was broken. And then a lot of people fear that we might not be able to have money when we get into retirement age, and these are all real fears. Okay. Now, economic stability. All right, stability seeks to reduce extreme ups and downs in the standard of living. All right, you have a life that is good, that is sustainable, that you want to have for not only for yourself, but your family and your friends. Okay, the standard of living, when we take a look at it, is the material well-being of an individual, group, or nation measured by how well their necessities and luxuries are being satisfied. So our standard of living right now, much different than it was, say, in the 1990s when things were really booming. Okay, 1990s, economically speaking, things were off the charts and people were living very, very well, okay, across the board, okay? Now, 25, 30 years later, that wealth gap has grown, to an enormous rate. We see the separation between classes. We see unevenness and that stability where the middle class was always strong, everything was good, you could retire in your 50s. Now all of a sudden people are working into their 60s, their 70s. So the standard of living has changed, but it's measured by the value of goods and services, how we value things and how, our happiness level and where things are at. And I say we're still far away from where we want to be. Okay, so again, these goals, are they being reached? Okay, economic growth. All right, so economic growth is the expansion of the economy to produce more goods, jobs, and wealth. Okay, as populations increase, the economy must also expand in other areas to provide for additional needs and wants. So it has to expand. As more people are being born, all right, things have to change. All right, all nations have economic growth as a goal, and this is often used by politicians during election cycles. Right, we're going to get the economy back on its feet. We're going to make sure that everyone has a job. That's always said. Every election cycle, you can go back, 50 years. It's the same thing over and over again. All right, but again, are we attaining it? Sure, there's economic growth, but there's still so much economic disparity that, again, is the growth really tangible? All right, and is it including everybody? And in most instances, it's not. Okay, so again, these goals, where are we at? That's what I want you to think about. Rights and responsibilities, okay? So the American free enterprise system bestows numerous economic rights and protections. All right, Americans have the freedom we can work whenever we want. We can get into that workforce. You can work as much as you want or as little. If you're like, nope, I'm not going to have a job, I don't want to work, well, it's your choice. You can definitely do that. But the trade-off is you're not going to be able to get money. You're not going to be able to pay bills or pay your taxes. So again, you can purchase any product you want. You can reject others. We have so much freedom and flexibility. Again, that in itself is important, okay, to have those options. All right, now Americans should take it upon themselves to support themselves and their families. All right, that should be the number one priority. Work within what you have, your family, your close ties, and then kind of branch out, whether it be your friends, and then you work into the community. That should be the mindset. Americans also have the opportunity to elect government officials that represent their economic beliefs. Okay, we have that ability to go to the ballot box and vote for someone that, hey, either we're going to be hands-on or hands-off. Whatever you prefer, we have that freedom and that opportunity, which is nice. We have those options. Okay, so we as Americans, again, economically speaking, we have tons of rights and responsibilities. Okay? All right, so we're going to have a journal log with this one. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Got a lot of big questions. All right, I want to get some of your perspectives, how you see the world, how you see things around you, especially as it relates to these goals that we as a nation have every year, but are we really reaching them? Okay? All right, thank you so much, folks. Continue working on our economic system project, and we'll go from there. All right, take care. Bye.